Hello there. Okay, today we're going to be looking at this Edgebander. This is the BJF-115. The one I got here is from Weihai Rico Machinery, and I ordered this and imported this myself from China. So in the first part we're going to look at the features of the machine, we're going to talk about it, and in the second part we're going to run it and let you see how it works in action. First off, this machine is all the machinery inside. It's very modular. I gotta say the Chinese are very creative in putting things together, and anybody in a machine shop with some good sense could come up with something like this too. And when you see all the components all separately, you see it's all very simple. And this machine also runs on 3-phase 50 Hertz, which of course is at 340 volts, which of course is incompatible with where I am. I am in Canada, so I need to have single phase on my residential power here. I'm single phase 220 and 60 Hertz. But when they put the machine together, I just specified that. It's got a variable frequency drive inside, and I'll show that at the back. It's got a nice handy access cover. Let me open up the back here. And you can see inside there, it's got a variable frequency drive, some solenoids, and basically just some empty space for the steel cabinet, which is pretty steady on the ground. It's got some good weight to it. This machine does not move around. There's the release here, and you can swing the whole transport mechanism out, which, as you can see, is just basically a big conveyor belt. Anybody who's familiar with an Edgebander at all of any kind is going to immediately recognize all these components here. You've got your spool for your edge banding, you've got your feed system, you've got your guillotine, which is pneumatically controlled, you've got your glue pot, your hot melt pellets in there, and you've got your rollers, and you've got your trimmer. This machine was the most basic model that I could find. And being the first time I brought machinery in by myself from China, I just wanted to keep the cost down, see how it was going to go. So there have other machines ranging to full-sized machines that would never fit in my shop, that have the buffing wheel and the polisher and the end cut. This machine actually does have an end cut. It's a manual end cut. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is going to be really cheesy and I'm never going to use it. But I'm actually quite surprised, and I'll show you later on how accurate this thing actually is. Control panel. Once again, anybody familiar with an Edgebander is going to immediately recognize the controls. We've got a safety cutoff. We've got our glue pot. I've got it set for 163, so it hovers around, in and around there, cycling off and on. You've got your power for your glue roller, your conveyor belt, your edge trimmer, and your main power. Now, when we first got this machine, we did have a couple little issues, little problems, but me and my brother-in-law, we are pretty creative guys. So one of them was this guillotine here was not cutting in all the way. We found there was a shim on here, which we replaced, that allowed the two knives of the guillotine to slide in nicely, and we just smoothed out the track that it slides in, and got it. There's also adjustment in here. Everything in here was it's got adjustment of some kind, so you can adjust it to tweak it to either your needs, or if in the factory or during transportation something went out of whack, you can always adjust it. You just if you just have some what I call engineering situational awareness, you'll be able to fix it. This roller here engages. There's a pneumatic ram here that pushes this rubber wheel, which is under power when the machine is running, and it feeds the tape forward. There was a problem with this roller here. This roller here was not turning. So once again, we just popped it apart. It's all easy. You just metric bolts. You just pop it apart. We freed it up. Boom. Away we went. And we've also hooked it up to our dust collector. It's got a 4-inch dust port on the back. You just hook it up to your system that you've got, any 4-inch, and you're good. You've got adjustment at the back here with little numbers, so you can keep track of your settings for the cutter head, where the cutter head, it pulls the cutter head in or out, and allows you to adjust how close to your material your edge banding gets cut. And once again, it's got the height adjustment for the entire transport mechanism, and this height goes up and down. It does have numbers on it that correspond to metric, but when I set it for what the metric equivalent of 3/4 was, I couldn't even fit the piece in there. So I'm sure there's a way to adjust this to actual. I found it was just easier to get at the label maker and figure out what the equivalent was of what fit through it nicely. So I fed a 3/4 inch piece and found that sweet spot, and then marked it, and then did everything else mathematically. Yeah, don't forget to check your oil and glue levels as you're using it, just to keep the machine in good use, good working order. The outfeed tables here, when you get it, when you set up a machine like this, you've got to swing the transport mechanism out so that you can lay a level across these pads here. There is adjustment underneath this outfeed table on both sides. There's adjustment so that you can adjust it to be perfectly level with the entire feed system, so that your pieces of wood come out nice and smooth. Another thing to note here, now this does slide out for larger pieces. I have fed without difficulty through this machine. I have fed pieces as short as 16 inches by 4 inches wide. It will not do anything less than 4 inches wide. It'll twist it down. It'll take the piece and it'll twist down like that. I have fed pieces as large as full 8 feet long by 36 inches wide. And I'm really limited to the space in my shop, and it has done all just fine. So we're going to fire this machine up. Once again, I am running this, it has a built-in variable frequency drive. I'm running it off of residential 220 power in North America. And we can turn the glue roller on. And you see the glue filling up the roller right there. There is adjustment. This lever right here, you can adjust it left or right, and it will increase or decrease the amount of glue that's being put on that roller, which as you watch your piece going through, you'll see if it's got, based on what type of wood. I find if I'm edge banding using PVC, I'll use slightly less glue than I would if I'm edge banding with real wood veneer edge banding. We've got conveyor belt, which you may or may not be able to see on this video as it turns on. Yeah, you probably can't see it. Well, might be able to see a fluff moving along. But anyway, that's the conveyor belt. It's inside the transport mechanism that swings out, and then you've got edge trimmer, which is pretty noisy. Okay, so we're going to fire up the air compressor and the dust collector, and we're going to run a few pieces of wood through this.